Today I'll be presenting our work titled Evolutionary Dynamics of Prey Aposematism within an Adaptive Framework. Here is the brief overview of this presentation. Moving to the introduction, aposematism refers to warning signals such as odor, color or toxicity that drives predators away by advertising their unprofitability. There are three key biological mechanisms through which aposematism works. First is signal honesty, that is, most of the aposematic prey are genuinely toxic. Second is predator learning. Predator associates aposematic signals with negative experiences and thus avoids such a prey in the future. And lastly, mimicry such as Batesian and Müllerian mimicry. So classic example of aposematism includes visually warning trait of poison dart frog, chemical defenses of skunk, Batesian mimicry of scarlet king snake, and Müllerian mimicry of monarch and visceral butterflies. So aposematism is well documented. However, a key question remains: how does the evolution of aposematism helps in the long-term persistence and stability of the prey population? To answer that, we have combined ecological and evolutionary dynamics via adaptive framework. Here we consider this prey-predator model where predation follows Holling type 2 functional response and prey growth follows Shepard's recruitment function. Now this parameter D is the degree of aposematism, that is the fraction of time a prey invests into aposematic behavior. Due to this aposematic behavior, the predation rate is decreased by 1 minus T fraction. Also, prey's resource acquiring abilities is decreased by 1 minus T fraction. By putting this term into that model, we obtain our final model, which is this one. All the parameters are provided in this table and also parameter values are taken from the relevant sources. So one thing to note that the parameter D remains constant within the context of ecological dynamics. However, when we will move to adaptive dynamics, D will continuously vary in the interval 0 to 1. We have then obtained the interior steady state ERP where both species coexist, also obtained its stability condition, and figure 1 shows that the interior steady state is stable for the mentioned parameter values. Moving to the evolutionary analysis, we consider that the ecological dynamics has already stabilized at the interior steady state R star P star. Then the degree of aposematism depends on a prey trait. Now Q is the mutant resident trait and R is the mutant trait. Here we assume that the mutant trait is slightly altered from the resident trait and also it appears in the resident population at very low density. Then we have obtained the invasion fitness of the mutant prey. Invasion fitness is defined as the per capita growth rate of the mutant when the environmental conditions are shaped by resident species. Next, by using adaptive dynamics, we have obtained selection gradient which dictates the direction of evolutionary change, and from there we have obtained evolutionary singular strategy given by these two equations. Now this allows us to identify the singular strategies as whether they are convergent stable, continuously stable strategy or an evolutionary branching point. So theorem 1 provides us the condition under which the singular strategy Q0, which is obtained from this equation 2.1, is continuously stable strategy. Moreover, it can never be an evolutionary branching point. Similar conditions are obtained for the singular strategy Q1, which is obtained from that second equation, and here also we can see that it can never be an evolutionary branching point. Theorem 3 suggests that if the interior steady state is globally stable, then evolutionary suicide cannot occur for the prey species. Here is the brief outline of the proof where the third condition is not satisfied for the evolutionary suicide to occur. Now moving to the particular form of aposematism function, first we consider linear aposematism function. The example of it includes ladybird beetle. So So the trait Q can be considered as the redness of the ladybird. Thus, as the intensity of the redness increases, the probability of avoidance by predator also increases. So here we have plotted the PIP, and PIP shows the existence of a unique singular strategy. Also, the bifurcation diagram, evolutionary bifurcation diagram with respect to parameter C confirms that it is a CSS. Also, this linear aposematism function can be modified like this to include non-linearity, and depending on alpha and beta, it can be either concave, convex, concave, or convex type of function. All these situations provide us the same evolutionary outcome. Next, moving to the nonlinear aposematism function, we have considered Gaussian distribution. So the example of it includes milkweed bugs. So these bugs aggregate on the milkweed plant and they demonstrate slow exposed movement. So if the exposure is very low, predators do not recognize them. If the exposure is very high, then there are some naive predators who will definitely attack them. And if the exposure is moderate, that will be best for the predator avoidance. In this scenario too, we have plotted the PIP, and PIP shows that there may exist up to 3 singular strategies. Also, we have plotted the evolutionary bifurcation diagram where we can see there exists a pitchfork type bifurcation. Also, we have plotted the trait dynamics with respect to evolutionary time scale, and it shows that there may exist up to 2 stable states. So in conclusion, there may exist bistability in the evolutionary dynamics. The singular strategies, both the singular strategies are always a CSS, and it can never be an EBP. Also, prey species remains monomorphic throughout its evolutionary history, and evolutionary suicide cannot occur for the prey species. And lastly, as a conclusion or as a future direction, we can say that we have included intraspecies competition or the crowding effect in the fecundity in our model. However, if we would have used it in the mortality, we might have obtained the same result. In that case, it would prove the robustness of our modeling. However, we might have obtained some other result like evolutionary branching point. Here are the references of this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.